So we are not too far from getting an announcement of the all-new iPhone 16, which a lot of us don't know what is going to be happening with that. But I thought, why not we step back in time and look at the good old days with the old iPhones. So today we're going to be looking at the old, and yes, very old, iPhone 4S. Now, of course, this is just the box. I already took the phone out. This is an old phone that we've had in our family for a long time. And yeah, this thing is tiny. Now, you can probably notice a lot of things about this old phone, and I'll definitely say it is something unique. Now, of course, with these old phones, you could not obviously have fingerprint or anything like that, so you had to just do an old password. But this old phone screen, this old home screen is insanely funny to look at, especially if you grew up with Apple devices and you had these type of phones back then. And this is actually not too old. It's still around about 2012 or so when this phone came out. Probably, yeah, it's 2012 or 2011. I'm not too sure. I'll put the proper date somewhere. But this thing is very impressive still into these days. Now, I'll go over all the things you need to know about this phone in terms of, well, just how beautiful these phones were back then, because a lot of things with this old phone, I wish they still kept in the current phones, because there's a lot of nice things with this phone. Now, going to obviously some of the specs of this phone that obviously can easily be found with the about. Back then, this phone had a capacity of around about, well, 12 gigs, which, yes, it is quite little compared to we have with our phones now, because our phones nowadays can basically go up to like 1 terabyte or even more, which is insane that we have evolved that much with mobile technology, which is insane. But this phone, back in that time, was probably the best option you could go for. Now, the version that this is running with iOS is 9.3.5, which is very old, because right now we are going to be going on to, iOS 18 at the end of this year, which is insane that it's been so many versions of iOS. But I mean, if I look at these specs that we can find on the phone, this still has some decent specs, and most phones nowadays do still have these type of specs, especially for your budget phones. But back then, this was a big deal. Now, there's nothing more funnier than looking at these phones and just seeing the video quality. Because I'll definitely say this phone had decent cameras, and I mean, I'll just do this, but you can easily see that that is just a big difference compared to what you can actually see on my normal self with the actual phone you're recording with, which is the iPhone 11, compared to this old thing, which, let me take a selfie, because I mean, that's how things were back then. I'm just gonna try line that up, and I'm just gonna take a photo. And looking at the photo, which I did put on HDR as well, it's still not too bad. It's just hilarious to see. Now, also, that was the rear-facing camera. The front-facing camera is a different story, because, of course, back then, front-facing cameras were not too bad. And just taking some photos of that, it's actually really good. Now, if you're taking selfies with this old phone, which you can see I really did, it does give the old Facebook vibes. But, I mean, the fact that we came from this small device, which I'll say, I miss a lot of stuff with this old phone. Now, you can look at the back with the rear-facing camera, and the sleekness and how, like, it's hard to see on the kind of way I'm showing it right now, but I'm also going to show B-roll shots of it. But just how flush these cameras were with the back of the phone. And I mean, it was both sides of glass, and it was pretty strong. Now, of course, it does have the aluminium framing, which is a nice touch. And we do basically still have that nowadays, but this, back then, with this size, it's actually really impressive that we had so much in this one small device. Now, of course, the one thing I have to say is obviously the charger. Now, this was before we had the Lightning, Thunderbolt, or anything like that, and we had this big charger, which, yeah, that was how we charged our phones back then. If you are someone that's very young and you've never seen these type of phones, this is how we basically used our phones back then. This is how tech was back then. And we have evolved a lot, so be grateful that we do have tech that is a lot more advanced in our current times, because this was what we had to deal with. And I mean, I remember having this and just playing Fruit Ninja and just having fun on this phone. But it was basically, everyone shouted, and just looking at the old icons just brings back so many memories and a lot of nostalgia for a lot of users that had this phone back then. Now, if you are someone that had this phone back then, let me know in the comments, because I want to hear your guys' stories of what your experience with these phones. Now, of course, this is not a proper review. This is just looking at the past, at how much technology has advanced, because it's insane that we've made this far in just the tech industry and just how far Apple has evolved with their phones. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below if you wanted to see more old products on the channel, because I do still have older iPads, older devices that you don't see around anymore. But I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next video. Be safe as always and have a great day. Bye.